The energy regulator Nersa has now confirmed that it got its sums wrong when it calculated how much Eskom can charge you for electricity. As a result, Eskom will now be able to raise that price by nearly 9%, instead of the original decision, which saw them raising prices by 5.3%. But Eskom is also being allowed to raise prices by more than expected because of a previous mistake by Nersa. Now, you have to pay a lot more money for electricity than you expected because Eskom needs to get more money to fix both of these mistakes made by the energy regulator. Professor Valli Padayachee is an energy and power expert who's worked both at Eskom and at City Power. Prof, good afternoon. I mean, this really is crazy. Nersa makes one big mistake and now has made another big mistake.
Good afternoon, Stephen, to you and your viewers, and I'm glad to be back. Just as a disclaimer, I'm obviously not a lawyer, and I don't talk on behalf of Nersa and Eskom, but I'll give you my experienced view. Yes, it's rather unfortunate that these two errors, as I understand it from the media statement, one on depreciation, and the other one is the transfer of the commercial units, or transfer the units to commercial service, has resulted in this massive error. In fact, it could have been worse. You know, Eskom had applied for 107 billion rand shortfall, and through the settlement, they're looking at 54 billion. But notwithstanding, the end-use customer and the municipalities, who are customers as well, will have to fork out the bill, unfortunately, Stephen.
Are there major problems at Nersa? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've reported or spoken to you or someone else about the fact that Nersa's made a decision, Eskom challenges it, goes to court, and then wins. I mean, I can't remember the last time Eskom lost against Nersa.
Yes, I think that's factual. I made this comment on another program where seemingly it's like almost every year there's a court case involving Nersa, either from Eskom or from third parties. And in most cases, they lose the court case. So it's indicative of challenges within Nersa. And unless that gets solved as a matter of priority, these issues may continue, unfortunately, Stephen.
Does Nersa need more resources? Do we need some other kind of intervention to try and fix this? We can't go on like this.
Yes, well, if you look at the process fundamentally involves people. You know, it's competencies and people and knowledge, experience, and some technology. And from my knowledge, I think Nersa has lost skills and competencies. In fact, unfortunately, some senior people have also passed on, died actually. And so we have a lot of youngsters there. And so I think it lacks the experience. And I think that needs to be addressed, Stephen.
Professor Padayachee, I'm going to tread sensitively here, but I know that electricity prices are a very sensitive political issue. Could Nersa have been put under political pressure to not approve high price rises? I mean, could something else be happening in the background that we're just not aware of? And I realize we shouldn't speculate. But for this to happen so consistently forms a pattern in my mind.
Well, let me answer it differently. I mean, you can't negate what you're saying, but I'm not privy to that information. But let me answer it differently. Of course, electricity is a public good, so it must be treated as a public good. But the mandate of Nersa, and I've been making this quite often in the media, the mandate of Nersa is to protect the interest of all the stakeholders on the value chain. And one of the key requirements of the mandate is the balancing act. And the balancing act means that eventually they will default or devolve to a cost, not a cost-reflective, but an affordable tariff. And that always leads to a lower than a cost-reflective tariff. And I think that's also one of the key problems that we're having, where Eskom and the municipalities don't have cost-reflective tariffs. We have lower affordable tariffs, and then now we have these errors. So we have a basket to a lot of issues, and unfortunately, the end-use customer pays for that. Gareth.
So, I mean, as I see it, and you understand it much better than I do, but as I see it, every year the same thing happens, or every time we have a price determination process by Nersa. They start a period of public consultation, which they go around the country and do. Each of those public consultation hearings starts with Eskom explaining why it needs more money. And then you have a very long list of people who come and say why they can't afford any more. And I have lots of sympathy with Eskom. I have a lot of sympathy with the people who can't afford to pay any more. I mean, electricity prices have really skyrocketed. And in the end, Nersa, in a difficult position, has to make quite a complex decision and assess all of that. But as you say, we still don't end up with a cost-reflective tariff. In other words, we are not paying enough for electricity, but I would suggest 90% of South Africans cannot actually pay for electricity now. And I don't see a solution to this kind of slow-motion financial train wreck.
No, Stephen, you're absolutely correct. And I've been long in this game, many decades, and we've now reached a situation where a number of factors have come to fruition. In other words, in the early 90s, where the cost-effective tariff and the affordable tariff was running in parallel. They were very close to each other, so there were not much problems. I remember my days in Eskom, the conscious decision, which has come back to bite us now, where the tariff was kept at 5% below inflation, consciously. And then the curve started moving apart, the cost-effective and affordable tariff. Now it's gone so wide apart that we're having all of these issues. So we have a paradoxical dichotomy, if I can use that phrase, where you need a serious intervention which looks to harmonizing simultaneously the cost-effective tariffs needed by the utilities, Eskom and the municipality, as well as the affordable tariffs. Now, we're saying affordable tariffs. The tariff at the moment is quite high, even for the end users. We've now got to a stage where we have energy poverty. And I spoke to you in, I think, one of the interviews where we have electricity connection to our household, but the householders can't use it because it's too expensive. They're using it for minimum. So we need some serious and urgent intervention by government and even Nersa with the assistance of other stakeholders. But Eskom and the municipalities can't do this alone. We'll have to have some serious intervention, again, I'm repeating, by government and Nersa, Stephen.
I mean, I completely agree with you. I just don't know what the intervention can be because government, as we know, doesn't have any money on its own. In the meantime, someone needs to sort out what's going to happen next. And if you look at the compounding of the two mistakes by Nersa, we all need to prepare to pay quite a lot for electricity from next year. Well, sorry, quite a lot more than what we're already paying. I mean, that's going to have impacts on inflation. It's going to have impacts on the Reserve Bank and all sorts of things. But it also means that people then leave Eskom where they can, and that is then a major problem.
Yes, that's an obvious problem, where people will look to go to alternative energies. But even alternative energies, although renewables is a lot cheaper than other energies, but it's still expensive. The ordinary, let's call it ordinary layman, and I say that with respect, can't even, it's not easy to afford going on to renewables because it comes at a price. So they're also caught between a rock and a hard space. And unfortunately, lots of the LSMs below 3, people are going back to biomass cooking and eating. I see that. I drive around the country, and especially into Witbank area, and I see the smoke is coming back into chimneys, etc., meaning that people are going back to biomass. So if we don't, we've got to address it urgently because electricity, notwithstanding the public good, underpins all the other sectors. And if we don't get it right, it's going to it's going to exacerbate, as you say, inflation, investments, etc. I mean, I know there's some large energy-intensive users who are shutting down smelters, moving out of the country, and so it's not a good situation. And I know the ministry and the minister is trying their best. I can say that quite openly, but there has to be some urgency in addressing it. Otherwise, we'll be going down a space that we shouldn't go down, Stephen.
Professor Valli Padayachee, a very stark warning. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for your time.